Welcome to the Deep Dive, the place where we take the entire stack of sources on a complex topic and, well, give you the shortcut to being instantly well-informed.
That's the goal.
Today, we are deep diving into the extraordinary and tragically cut short life of Liam Payne. He was a figure who, for millions globally, really defined modern pop music as a key member of One Direction.
Absolutely. One of the best-selling boy bands of all time. It's undeniable.
And we're unpacking the full picture here, really exploring the complexity of his 31 years. It's a lot.
It really is. And when you dig into the source material, what jumps out almost immediately is this striking portrait of duality, almost radical duality.
How so?
Well, you've got the global pop phenomenon, right? The guy singing in stadiums.
Yeah.
But then the sources also show him as this quite astute industry architect.
Yeah, the songwriter and producer side.
Exactly. Highly credited songwriter and, surprisingly, an immensely private, almost secret philanthropist. But running parallel to all that structure and success was this really deep-rooted history of intense personal health struggles, challenges with addiction.
Right.
And then, of course, the detailed, very challenging aftermath of his death in October 2024.
So our mission today isn't just to, review a celebrity biography. It's more about quickly and thoroughly understanding the scope of his whole life.
Right, balancing that intense global music career with the often agonizing personal life he fought so hard to keep private.
Including those extensive charitable efforts you mentioned.
Yeah, many of which we're hitting. We're going to use the sources to connect the dots, trying to see the lines between those early trials and ultimately the final tragedy.
It's a huge amount of ground to cover, definitely. So let's unpack this. Where do we start? Maybe with that surprising foundation of determination he built in his earliest years.
I think that's exactly the place to start, because to really understand the resilience that, kind of defined his career, you have to look right back at his birth. The sources detail a pretty critical health battle right from the word go. Liam Payne was born 3 weeks premature.
Okay, premature, but it was more than that.
Oh, yeah, much more severe. Doctors discovered that one of his kidneys was badly scarred and dysfunctional. Basically, it wasn't working properly.
Wow. And the sources make it clear his earliest years were just defined by this staggering pain and medical intervention.
Totally. We're talking about a treatment regimen that required him to get 32 daily injections in his arm.
32 every day.
Morning and evening, yeah, until he was 4 years old.
That level of, chronic medical need for a tiny kid, it just speaks volumes about the physical fight he had in him just to get to basic health.
Absolutely. And you see that fighting spirit translate pretty quickly into his social life, too.
How do you mean?
Well, he talked about enduring significant bullying in secondary school, especially from older students.
Right.
And the way he chose to deal with it wasn't retaliation, it was discipline. He started taking boxing lessons when he was 12.
Boxing.
Yeah, and this pattern, turning that internal struggle into something structured, physical, determined, that's a theme you kind of see pop up again later in his career.
Interesting. Yet, even while he's dealing with the health stuff and navigating school, he was already dipping his toes into show business.
He was. The sources mention him getting exposure to performance at age 12. He actually played Tony Manero.
From Saturday Night Fever.
That's the one. In a company called Pink Productions Theater Company.
So he had that performance bug early on?
Seems like it. And that early experience was pretty foundational. It led to him performing in front of absolutely massive crowds, really high-pressure situations.
Like what?
Notably, singing in front of 26,000 people during a Wolverhampton Wanderers football match.
26,000?
Yeah. At
12? That's intense training for the stadium life that came later, I guess.
You'd have to think so. And he also took his education seriously alongside all this.
Right. The sources confirm he completed 11 GCSEs.
Which, for our listeners maybe outside the UK, are the standard exams students take around 16.
Got it. And then he studied music technology.
Yeah, at the City of Wolverhampton College. So he had both the raw talent and this, academic grounding in the technical side of music before he even hit TV.
Which brings us neatly to the X Factor. You mentioned the story is often simplified, but he actually had 2 cracks at it, right?
Exactly. 2 distinct runs. The first audition was way back in 2008. He was only 14.
14. Wow. What did he sing?
Fly Me to the Moon, Sinatra.
Classic. And how did that go?
Well, that initial attempt really tells you something about his potential. He made it past the first audition, but got cut at boot camp.
Okay, so end of story.
Not quite. And here's where the source material highlights Simon Cowell's specific interest. Cowell actually changed his mind. brought Payne back for judges' houses.
Which is super rare, right?
Extremely rare. Then cut him again, but gave him this very direct instruction, come back in 2 years.
Just like that. Come back in 2 years.
Pretty much. And Liam took that instruction literally.
So he came back.
He did. Returned in 2010 for the 7th series. This time he sang Michael Bublé's version of Cry Me a River.
Okay. And this time?
Again, he failed to advance as a solo artist in the boys category during judges' houses.
So twice he was told he wasn't quite strong enough as a solo act.
Exactly. That detail's crucial. He was twice deemed not quite ready, or maybe not the right fit, for a solo win.
But, as we all know now, that second failure was basically the launchpad for, well, global domination.
Pretty much, yeah. During that same boot camp stage, he was put together with Harry Styles, Neil Horan, Louis Tomlinson, and Zayn Malik.
And One Direction was born.
That was it. They actually placed 3rd in the competition.
Which honestly feels irrelevant now, given what happened next. 3rd place was just the starting block.
Totally. By January 2011, they'd signed with Cowell's label, Sicko Entertainment, and the trajectory was just explosive and historic.
How historic.
Their debut album, Up All Night, it debuted at #1 in the U.S. That made them the first British group ever to do that with a debut album.
Wow, first ever. That's huge.
It's massive, and you think about it, given the constant medical needs, the bullying he faced as a kid. That sudden, overwhelming success must have brought a whole new, colossal set of pressures.
Yeah, trading one kind of battle for another almost.
Yeah.
Which leads us into the career itself. Let's talk about that, maybe moving beyond just the boy band member image.
Right.
Because the sources really paint Liam Payne as kind of the group's intellectual engine room sometimes.
Yeah.
Like an unexpected creative architect.
Yeah, I think that's fair. What's fascinating when you look at the sources is the sheer volume of his creative output. It often got overshadowed by the fame. But he became a really prolific co-writer on the later One Direction albums. He's credited on over 30 tracks for the group.
30. That's a lot.
It is. Second only to Louis Tomlinson in writing credits within the band. He was basically an active industry insider from a really young age.
And the sources actually break down their collaboration style, which gives us a cool insight into how 1D sound developed.
They do. Apparently, Tomlinson focused more on the lyrics, the storytelling aspect,
Okay.
while Payne had this specific penchant for coming up with melodies. That's the quote.
So he was the tunesmith, maybe, crafting the hooks.
It suggests that, yeah. He was often the one developing the melodic hooks that really carried their songs, especially later on.
And was he proud of that work? And did he ever talk about specific tracks?
He did. He mentioned 2 tracks he was most proud of co-writing. One was Better Than Words.
Oh, yeah. What was special about that one?
It was incredibly inventive. It's basically composed by weaving together titles of other famous love songs into a brand new, cohesive track.
That's clever. Very meta.
Yeah, it is. And the other one he mentioned was What a Feeling.
What a feeling. What was the story there?
He and Tomlinson wrote that one together, and he specifically noted it was inspired by Fleetwood Mac.
Fleetwood Mac, really?
Yeah. And if you listen to that track, you can actually hear it. It's a deliberate effort to move beyond standard pop. They use these layered harmonies, smoother production, almost like a yacht rock kind of vibe, trying to mimic that classic Fleetwood Mac sound. It really shows his role wasn't just supplying a catchy tune, but actively trying to elevate their artistic direction.
Right, pushing the boundaries a bit.
Exactly. And we also see his crucial structural role, especially after Zayn Malik left the band in March 2015. That was a huge moment.
Massive news at the time. How did it affect Liam?
Well, the sources explicitly state that Payne was then tasked with taking over the bulk of Malik's lead vocals.
Really? The bulk of them?
Yeah, and this wasn't just, shuffling a few lines around. Malik's vocal style, his texture, that was a core part of the 1D sound.
Sure.
So Payne stepping up to shoulder that responsibility really speaks to his centrality and his versatility as they had to figure out how to be a 4-piece.
So he was musically versatile and also had some business sense.
Oh, definitely. He displayed significant business acumen pretty much right away. The sources list him as a co-top earner in the band, alongside Tomlinson. And he also set up and became director of Hampton Music Limited. That was his publishing company for solo stuff. And he was a director for One Mode Productions Limited, too.
So even in his early 20s, while touring the world, he wasn't just performing. He was actively managing the business side, the production, the publishing machinery of his career.
Precisely. He was building that infrastructure early on.
Which must have set him up well for the hiatus when the band decided to take a break.
Absolutely. That strong business foundation was key. Following the break in 2016, he signed with Republic Records in North America for his solo work.
And the commercial power he showed right out of the gate was pretty staggering, wasn't it?
Immediate and staggering, yeah. In just his first 3 solo years alone, the sources say he sold over 18 million singles.
18 million singles.
And 2.4 million albums. Plus, he racked up 3.9 billion streams globally in that time.
Wow. 3.9 billion streams. I mean, just think about that number. That kind of output establishes him as a definitive global force on his own, right? Not just Liam from one direction.
Exactly. It proves he successfully made that pivot. He wasn't just cashing in on nostalgia. He was building a new solo identity.
So let's look at the singles that drove that success. Strip that down in 2017. That was huge.
Massive. Featuring Quavo, co-written with Ed Sheeran. It hit number 3 in the UK, number 10 in the US, multi-platinum in both countries. It was everywhere.
A proper global smash.
And then there was the track that maybe demonstrated his worldwide bankability even more. For You, with Rita Ora.
Oh yeah, the one for the 50 Shades Freed soundtrack.
That's the one. That track was a commercial explosion. It achieved the extremely rare diamond certification in Brazil.
Diamond, wow.
Yeah, and platinum or gold in 13 other countries. It just cemented his reputation as a reliable hitmaker, no matter the genre or who he collaborated with.
So he could deliver the hits. What about the album? LP1 came out in 2019.
It did. It reached number 17 in the UK, which is respectable, and it was certified gold in the UK and platinum over in Canada.
And later projects showed he wasn't afraid to experiment a bit more.
Seems so. He did that collaborative EP, Midnight Hour, with the DJ Alesso, electronic vibes there.
Right.
And he had that popular Christmas single, Naughty List, featuring Dixie D'Amelio, which did pretty well online.
Okay. And his final solo track, released in March 2024, just before.
Yeah, Teardrops. And this one had a really interesting co-writer, J.C. Chases.
From NSYNC.
From NSYNC, yeah. Which is fascinating, right? That collaboration itself kind of speaks to Payne's deep understanding, maybe respect, for the whole boy band lineage and mechanics.
That's a cool connection. How did Teardrops do?
Initially, it didn't chart when it was released, but after his death, there was that immediate surge of fan engagement, and it actually debuted at number 85 on the UK singles chart.
A sort of posthumous recognition.
Yeah.
So, talking about his artistry overall, the sources mainly peg him as pop and R&B, right?
Yeah.
But with electronic explorations later.
That's the main categorization, yeah. His influences included the big modern names, Chris Brown, Justin Timberlake, Usher.
Standard for pop R&B artists of his generation.
True, but the influence he specifically highlighted as being really transformative for him was Pharrell Williams.
Pharrell? Interesting. Why him?
Payne was really inspired after learning that Pharrell had, relatively speaking, a late start musically. A producer apparently told him that at Payne's age then, he was 22, Pharrell couldn't press a note on a keyboard.
Huh.
And that really resonated with Payne. It made him feel like he wasn't too old to learn guitar or keep developing musically. It reflects this kind of continuous, quiet drive he had for self-improvement.
That's quite revealing. Always pushing himself.
Seems like it. He also cited Linkin Park's In the End as a pivotal song for him personally.
Linkin Park. That's different from his own output.
Right. He described it as his gateway into rock music. So while his professional output was mostly pop and R&B, his personal taste and the elements he drew inspiration from were probably much broader. He was seeking out that emotional intensity you often find in rock.
Okay. And his influence spread beyond just music too, right? Into fashion.
Yeah, definitely. He was named the first ever global brand ambassador for Hugo Boss back in May 2019.
That's a big deal, Hugo Boss.
It is. He fronted their Hugo Now fragrance campaign and collaborated on 2 pretty successful capsule collections. You know, polo shirts, hoodies, sweatpants, that kind of menswear stuff.
He was looking towards the future too, digitally. The NFT thing.
Oh yeah, he definitely dipped his toes into the digital frontier. The sources note he launched his own NFT collection called Lonely Bug back in June 2021.
Right, NFTs, non-fungible tokens, that whole digital art boom.
Exactly, and he was keen enough on that whole crypto space to even have a dedicated crypto Twitter account at Payne ETH. He was exploring those new avenues.
Interesting, and the sources also mention one last, quite poignant professional detail.
Yeah.
Something coming out after his death.
Yeah. It was announced he'd filmed a role as a guest judge on a Netflix music competition series called Building the Band.
Oh, wow.
It's scheduled to air in July 2025, so his work will continue to be seen even now.
Which brings us to, well, the other side of the coin. While he was building this massive global commercial empire, the sources reveal this profound counter-narrative happening behind the scenes.
Yeah, the private struggle.
Exactly. Immense private struggle, but also these surprising acts of profound kindness. Let's transition now to talk about Liam Payne, the person behind the global brand.
It's a stark transition, isn't it? Because Payne spoke very openly, especially in later years, about his mental health issues, specifically about alcoholism and addiction.
Right. He described the years during One Direction's peak as toxic, I think was the word he used.
She did, and he painted a pretty disturbing picture of that environment. He spoke specifically about being addicted to pills and booze, recalling the constant difficulty of being basically locked in these high-pressure hotel rooms, often with nothing but a minibar for company between gigs.
That sounds incredibly isolating. It suggests this pattern where easy access to substances just became the main way to cope with the relentless demands of touring.
It really does. But he did take major steps towards recovery. He shared publicly in 2023 that he was sober for over 100 days.
Okay.
And that he'd spent a significant amount of time, I think it was about 100 days, 3 months, in a dedicated rehab facility in Louisiana.
That public acknowledgement must have been huge for him. But it also revealed just how severe that private battle really was.
Absolutely. And we probably should address the very controversial interview he did in 2022 with Logan Paul.
Yeah, that made a lot of headlines.
It did. The sources note he was visibly intoxicated during it. He made several pretty contentious comments.
Like what?
Well, he talked about a supposedly broken promise Simon Cowell made to him about his return to X Factor. And he expressed these really deep, kind of conflicting feelings about Zayn Malik.
What did she say about Zayn?
The quote was something like, "There's many reasons why I dislike Zayn, and there's many reasons why I'll always, always be on his side." Just very raw and conflicted.
And the public reaction.
Immediate international backlash. The fact he was intoxicated, the things he said.
Yeah.
It forced him to issue a public apology and clarification later. It really underscored how precarious his mental state seemed at that time.
Yeah, a very public low point.
Definitely. And on top of the mental health struggles, his physical health battles were ongoing too. It wasn't just the early kidney issues.
Oh.
He was actually hospitalized with a serious kidney infection in August 2023. It was serious enough that he had to postpone his planned first solo tour of Latin America.
So that medical fragility from his childhood, it never really left him. It just added another layer of physical stress onto the mental battles.
It seems that way, yeah. Another constant challenge he was dealing with.
But now, let's pivot. Because amidst all this struggle, there's this other narrative the sources emphasize, his philanthropy.
Yeah.
Which was apparently extensive and often done really quietly.
Yeah, this is the profound, quieter contrast to those very public struggles. It's quite remarkable.
So what kind of things was he involved in?
Well, he was a central figure in youth cancer support. He was an ambassador for the charity Trek Stock, alongside Harry Styles, actually.
Okay.
And the scale of their impact was huge. Together, they raised nearly $1 million across 2 campaigns, about $784,000 in 2013, and another $211,000 in 2015.
That's serious money for a good cause.
Absolutely. He was also involved in big global causes like UNICEF. He captained the England team for Soccer Aid in 2022.
Right, the charity football match.
Yeah, and Comic Relief, too. Helped raise £2 million for them back in 2013, even visited a children's hospital in Ghana for them.
Wow. And then there are the moments that seem to show the depth of his personal relationships, like with Louis Tomlinson.
Yes. He co-hosted a charity ball with Louis for an organization called Believe in Magic, which supports terminally ill children.
Okay.
And the sources note that between them, they donated over £5 million at that single event.
£5 million at one event.
Yeah. And there's this genuinely touching detail in the sources that Louis Tomlinson donated £50,000 specifically to have Liam's face painted at the event.
£50,000 for face paint. That says a lot about their friendship, doesn't it? And their shared commitment to the cause.
It really does. A massive display of both generosity and camaraderie. But maybe the most moving revelations about his charity work actually came out after his death.
Oh, what was that about?
It was about his dedication to food security. This was his really hidden work.
And how?
The sources detail his quiet, sustained support for the Trussell Trust. Apparently, he funded over 360,000 meals during the COVID-19 pandemic.
Wow, 360,000 meals. That's incredible impact.
It is. And here's the detail that really makes you pause. He donated £80,000 personally, but he also physically volunteered. In person.
Volunteered where?
At the Euston Food Bank and another place called Food for All in Holborn, London, he was actually there doing the work.
And nobody knew. This wasn't like a PR thing?
Exactly the opposite. This was deeply private. The director of Food for All specifically noted that Payne didn't want anyone to make a thing about it. He actively tried to ensure it let nobody know of his generosity.
So he was doing hands-on community service, but making sure it stayed totally anonymous.
Yeah. That level of hidden commitment, it really suggests he wasn't looking for praise or validation for the work. He just wanted the impact.
Profoundly decent.
It really is. And that generosity apparently continued right up until the very end.
How so?
In the month before he died, he was still quietly helping strangers online. He donated thousands of pounds to various GoFundMe pages for people needing money for operations.
Just randomly finding GoFundMes and donating.
Seems like it. He even posted a Snapchat video around that time explaining he was trying to finish off people's donations so that they can get the operations they need.
Wow. It paints this incredibly powerful, almost difficult picture, doesn't it? A man privately reaching out to help others, even as his own demons were clearly overwhelming him.
Yeah, it's a very complex, very human portrait.
Which leads us, inevitably, to the circumstances surrounding his tragic death in Buenos Aires in October 2024. The sources confirm he was in Argentina for a couple of reasons. One was to renew his USO visa.
Which, just for context, is the visa granted to individuals with extraordinary ability in fields like arts or business.
Right. And he was also apparently planning to attend Neil Horan's concert there.
That's correct. His girlfriend at the time, Kate Cassidy, had reportedly flown back to her home in Florida just 2 days before the incident occurred.
Okay. So on October 16th, 2024, at just 31 years old, he died after falling from a third-floor balcony at the Casa Sur Hotel.
Yes. And the events immediately before that fall are critical, and they're detailed in the police report.
What does the report say?
The hotel manager actually placed an emergency call. He reported an aggressive man who could be under the effects of drugs and alcohol, and that this man was destroying the entire room. The manager specifically noted the life risk because the man was near the balcony.
So it sounds like a really volatile, dangerous situation in the minutes leading up to the tragedy.
Extremely. The sources confirm that shortly after emergency services arrived at the hotel, Payne fell to the courtyard below. The fall was from an approximate height of 13 to 14 meters, about 45 feet.
Just awful. And the cause of death, what did the autopsy find?
The immediate cause of death, confirmed in the preliminary autopsy, was polytrauma, basically multiple severe injuries.
Okay.
It also cited internal and external hemorrhages and multiple traumatic injuries all over his body. The forensic experts specifically pointed out that the traumatic brain injuries he sustained were, on their own, enough to cause death.
So the head injuries were catastrophic.
Yes. And the analysis by the forensic team gives us some insight into his state during the fall itself. This is crucial.
What did they conclude?
They concluded that Payne did not adopt a reflexive posture to protect himself as he fell. You know, how you might instinctively try to brace yourself.
Right.
The lack of that led them to hypothesize that he could have fallen in a state of semi or total unconsciousness.
Meaning he might have been already unconscious or close to it when he went over the balcony?
That was their conclusion based on the physical evidence, yeah.
Right. And then there were the toxicology reports. There was a lot of media speculation about that initially, wasn't there?
Oh, huge amounts. It requires careful explanation because the timeline got messy in the press. Initial media reports were speculating wildly about substances.
I remember seeing things about pink cocaine and crack cocaine.
Exactly. Those reports were flying around. But the public prosecutor's office in Argentina actually had to issue a statement officially denying that they had leaked those early, often quite sensationalized media stories. They pushed back on that narrative.
So when did the official results come out?
It wasn't until November 7th, a few weeks later, that the official toxicological exams were completed and the results released.
And what did they find?
Those official exams confirmed the presence of 3 things in his system: alcohol, cocaine, and a prescribed antidepressant.
Okay, so alcohol, cocaine, and an antidepressant.
Correct. Investigators also seized some other items from the hotel room: clonazepam, which is often prescribed for anxiety or seizures, and some energy supplements. They also found a whiskey bottle down in the courtyard where he fell.
So the toxicology confirms the substance use that the hotel manager alluded to in that initial emergency call.
It provides the medical confirmation, yes.
And what about legal consequences? Were people charged in Argentina?
Yes, initially. An Argentine judge initially charged 5 people in connection with the incident.
5 people.
It broke down to 2 groups. Two people, a waiter and another hotel employee, were charged with supplying drugs to Payne.
Okay, supplying drugs. And the other three?
Three others, a businessman who had apparently been with Payne earlier, and two hotel managers were initially charged with manslaughter or criminal negligence. The idea was failure to protect a guest.
Manslaughter charges. That's serious.
Very. However, it's important to note an update. The sources confirm that those three manslaughter charges were actually dropped later, in February 2025.
Why were they dropped?
The reporting suggests that while drugs were clearly involved, and there was negligence from the suppliers, the authorities determined there wasn't enough evidence to prove that the hotel staff or the businessman directly caused the fatal fall itself. So those specific charges didn't stick.
Right, a complex legal situation. And the global reaction to his death was just immense, wasn't it?
Absolutely immense and deeply emotional. The bandmates, the other four members of One Direction, released a joint statement expressing their devastation.
And individually.
All of them, including Zayn Malik, released their own individual statements paying deep respect. And Zayn, in a very significant gesture, actually postponed the U.S. leg of his solo tour, Stairway to the Sky, immediately following the news.
Wow, that speaks volumes. And Liam's former partner, Cheryl.
She issued this incredibly powerful public plea, really focused on dignity and protecting their young son, Bear.
What'd she say?
She expressed this fear that Bear would eventually access the abhorrent reports and media exploitation surrounding his father's death. It just highlighted that devastating conflict between celebrity status and the need for private family grief.
Yeah, absolutely heartbreaking.
And beyond the immediate family and bandmates, the reaction from the wider music industry included some very strong, quite critical statements.
Critical how?
Well, industry veterans like Sharon Osbourne, Rebecca Ferguson, even Bruce Springsteen. They all paid tribute, of course, but they also used the moment to explicitly raise concerns about the immense pressure and even the word exploitation that young stars face in the music industry. Robbie Williams also made a very high-profile public plea for compassion, directly relating Payne's documented struggles to his own early experiences with addiction and the pressures of fame.
So it wasn't just grief, it was also a moment of reflection, maybe anger about the system.
Definitely. It felt like a catalyst for a broader conversation about the duty of care within the industry.
And the fan reaction was obviously huge, too. How did that manifest?
Yeah. Immediately visible. Musically, all 5 One Direction studio albums re-entered the UK Top 40 chart.
All 5. Wow.
Yeah. Up All Night, Take Me Home, Midnight Memories, 4, and Made in the AM. It showed this immediate return to that shared history, that comfort music for so many. And several of his solo tracks, including that final single Teardrops, also re-entered the UK singles chart. And then, of course, memorials popped up everywhere.
Where were they?
Outside the hotel in Buenos Aires, naturally. But also major ones in London's Hyde Park and significantly on Clevedon Pier.
Why Clevedon Pier?
That was the filming location for the One Direction music video for You and I, a very symbolic place for the fans.
Right, connecting back to the band days.
Exactly. But maybe the most enduring response, the one with potential long-term impact, came from the fan community itself. This movement for something called Liam's Law.
Liam's Law, what is that?
It's basically a fan-driven initiative. A petition started circulating very quickly after his death.
What does it call for?
It calls for systemic changes in the music industry. Things like mandatory mental health checks for artists, especially younger ones, consistent access to mental health professionals, and even mandated adequate rest periods for artists under 30 to prevent burnout.
So concrete proposals for better artist welfare.
Precisely. And the movement gained traction incredibly fast. The petition got over 68,000 signatures in just 5 days.
68,000 in 5 days. That shows a profound public demand for change, doesn't it? Using this tragedy as a catalyst.
It really does. A clear signal that fans felt the system needed fixing to protect its talent.
So bringing this all together, Liam Payne's story, as we've unpacked it from this huge stack of sources, it's just defined by this almost impossible contradiction, isn't it?
It really is. You have the disciplined creative architect, the guy securing publishing rights, co-writing global hits.
Yeah.
And then simultaneously, you have the person harboring these immense personal struggles that led him to lengthy rehab stints and ultimately, so tragically, to his death.
If we try to connect the dots, like we set out to do, can we see a narrative arc from the early challenges to the end?
I think you can trace a line. You look at those early life challenges, the premature birth, the complex medical needs, the bullying leading to boxing lessons. It paints a picture of a persona that likely developed this enormous internal drive to succeed, to prove himself,
Okay.
but perhaps lacked the necessary emotional support structure or the tools to manage the sheer isolation and pressure that came with that level of global fame achieved so young.
Right. The sources suggest that relentless professional environment, particularly in 1D, the isolation, the hotel rooms, the minibars, the constant pressure, it just exacerbated a crisis.
Exactly. A crisis that the private, generous side of him, the side volunteering anonymously, was maybe desperately trying to offset through these acts of hidden kindness. It's like the two sides were pulling in opposite directions.
And the really striking thing, going back to the philanthropy, is that his most compassionate acts were the ones he deliberately hid.
Yeah. Donating 80,000 pounds and actually showing up to volunteer at food banks, funding strangers' operations online. He went to great lengths to keep that totally separate from his public persona.
It suggests a soul performing this profound, quiet good while fighting the most public, volatile kind of inner battle imaginable.
It does. So we circle back to his complex legacy. What does Liam Payne's life, and particularly the grassroots push for Liam's Law, demanding systemic accountability, what does it tell us about the responsibilities of fame and about the music industry as a whole?
Yeah.
His story really forces us, I think, to look beyond the shiny celebrity persona and acknowledge that immense success often masks these deep unmet needs. It's a harsh reminder.
And we've seen this clear demand now from the public that the industry must do better, provide preventative mental health support, mandate rest, look after the people it elevates to global stardom, especially when they're young.
Absolutely.
So maybe the final question his life leaves us with isn't really about what he achieved commercially, the hits, the sales,
Right.
but more about what we as a society and what the industry itself owes to the individuals we put on those global stages. If a person with his resources, his platform, and clearly his capacity for profound, secret generosity was fighting so hard and struggling so visibly towards the end, what does that tell us about the support systems or maybe the lack thereof in that whole ecosystem of global celebrity? And maybe more broadly, what silent hidden battles might the people around us, not just celebrities, but our friends, our colleagues, be fighting that we just fail to acknowledge because we only ever see their public face of success?